This is Splash, a free arts workshop based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. These videos are a series of remote art classes for youth and can be found on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Number 59, The Landscape in Colored Pencils.
Hello, 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 hello. What's going on? How y'all doing? Come on in. This is Splash, a free art class. And I'm Charlie Newton, your artist today, your teaching artist today. Well, glad to have you here for one more art class. Today, we're going to draw with colored pencils again. We had started drawing with colored pencils a couple of weeks ago. And, I'm enjoying it so much. What I want to do is sketch a landscape. And first we're going to start with a regular pencil, any pencil you want to use, some drawing pencil, any lead you want to use, 2B, 4B, HB, H, whatever. It's okay. But we're going to draw a landscape, and what we're going to focus on is the horizon line. So what I want to do first is to draw a landscape with a pencil, and then if we have time today, we're going to go back and draw another landscape with color pencils. So I want to show you how we can transition from a regular lead pencil to color pencils. So when we're using different mediums, it should feel like the same thing. And ultimately, you shouldn't be able to tell the difference. So last week when I did a color pencil drawing, you couldn't tell if that was a watercolor or a pastel or color pencil or what. They all should look the same because of your techniques. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about horizon lines. So I'm looking for some scrap paper that I can use. So the horizon line, we're doing a landscape. And for you kids who don't know what a landscape is, a landscape is basically an outdoor scene. It's basically an outdoor scene. So the horizon line is a line that goes across the landscape, your view, your scene, that represents as far as your eye can see. When your eyes can see no further, in your mind, there's a line that's created. And that's why centuries ago, people thought the world was flat, because when they looked out over the ocean, they saw a straight line. And so that made them think that the world is flat. But it was just that their vision had stopped at that point. So a horizon line, I'm going to write that word down, horizon line. A horizon line can be either high or low on your paper. So basically, it's a line that goes straight across your paper. It don't even have to be straight. But that's as far as the eye can see. And what's above the horizon line is usually the sky. And what's below is usually the ground. And if there's anything else between that, like mountains, there could be mountains. And so that's the horizon line. But I want to show you the difference in a high or low horizon line. So the horizon line, if it is low, then you're going to see more sky. Let's put some clouds up in the sky. And when we draw clouds, we don't draw clouds like this. That's a cotton ball. We don't do cotton ball clouds, even though I have seen a few clouds, but usually clouds are different shapes. A common shape is a shape sort of like that, a cumulus. But, and then so the sky would be up here somewhere, and this would be the ground. So the lower the horizon line is, the more of the sky you're going to see. And the picture we're going to draw is we're going to have a lot of sky in our picture. Now, the higher the horizon line, the more earth you're going to see, the more ground. And you may not even see any clouds because the horizon line is high. Now, when the horizon line is low, so this is the horizon line right here. When the horizon line is low on your sheet of paper, that means you are closer to the earth. You are closer to the ground. You're standing on the ground or usually sitting on the ground or laying on the ground, maybe. Or let's say standing. Now the higher up, and this is, nothing is, in art, nothing is etched in stone. It can change. Everything changes in art because it depends on the situation, especially in landscape drawing. If the horizon ground is high, if the horizon line is high, H-I-G-H, on your paper, then that means you are either laying down on the ground or you're floating up in the air. You're floating. So you're going to see more. You're very close to the ground, or if you have a high horizon line, you could be in flying in an airplane as well. So if you don't see a horizon line, that's sort of like you are above the ground. So if you're above the ground, say like you're in an airplane, you may see clouds, you may see land formations, you're looking down. You may see cars, the top of cars, say if it's at night, the lights of the cars will be on. So imagine this is a car on the road. You see the top of trees. You may see a lake. And this is a very high horizon line. You can't see the horizon line, it's so high up. You can see the top of buildings. Or houses. Okay? So we're going to draw a picture. We're going to sketch, not draw, not draw, sketch a picture. I'm going to get a softer pencil. I was drawing with a HB. Now I'm just going to get a softer pencil so that you can see a 2B. So, so the horizon lines are going to be low on the page, maybe a third of the page. And so we're going to draw this, sketch this picture twice. We're going to sketch and shade. You can sketch with a 2B, and then I want you to shade with a, find another pencil. Maybe a 4B. I'm going to use a 5B, which is pretty dark. So we learned when we was drawing with color pencils that you can vary the pressure that you put on the paper. The less pressure, the lighter your sketch is going to be. The more pressure, the darker your mark will be. So we're going to sketch with a 2B. Let's hold the pencil like this. Let's not hold it like we're writing, because when you hold it like you're writing, it's difficult to be light-handed. You know, you're going to put too much pressure on the paper. So when you hold the pencil like this, you turn your hand over, your thumb, your forefinger, index finger, and then turn your hand over. You can sketch like this. You don't have to turn your hand over. Whatever's comfortable. And so let's just draw a straight line. It don't have to be definite, you know, completely straight to represent the horizon line. See, I'm sketching, so I've made several lines. I'm going to give you time to sketch that line straight across. It's like 3/3, or 1/3 the weight of your paper. So if I multiply this space here 3 times, I can get 2 more in here. So it's a little less than 1/3. So the bottom part will be land. Top part is going to be sky. And when we paint, remember we're going to do color pencil and then we're going to paint this same picture. So we're going to do this sketch, then we'll do a color pencil drawing, which will take longer, and then we will do a painting of the same thing. And after we do the painting, who knows, we might decide to do a mixed medium. I don't know. But the more you sketch this, the better your drawing will look. So a lot of times artists will sketch things to figure out things. So on the left-hand side, I want you to make your land, because land is not the planet, the earth, a landscape. It's not going to be perfectly level unless you know, a bulldozer has come across the land and flattened the land out to build developments or buildings or houses or something. So the land's going to undulate. It's going to be wavy. So the first part, we're going to do the middle ground of this land. It's going just to do that. It's like a little mound that curves down to the center of the page. I want you to do this. Notice I started above the horizon line. Do that line. Hold the pencil and sketch like. We're using 2B. We may not even get to the 4B because you can do a lot with a 2B pencil. Keep your hand off the paper. If you have to rest your hand on the paper later, what you're going to do is get a tissue or another piece of paper so that you don't smudge your paper. And I'm going to take my paper down. This corner is rising up. So this is going to be a middle ground. The reason why we're doing this is because I want you to see how you can create the illusion of 3-dimensional space. Make it look like it's more realistic. Make your picture look like it's opening up a little bit. And I want you to go back and sketch the horizon line, but I want your horizon line to sort of slope up a little bit at an angle. See, it's at an angle. So the right side is higher than the left side. If I put my ruler on it, you can see my ruler shows that the land is not level. If it was level, my ruler would be there. So I want you to sketch in this angle. Don't use a ruler, because I want this to be a sketch. And nature doesn't look like what man manufactures. Nature is more beautiful than what man can make, and it's because it's so complex. And what man does, or man or woman, what we do humanity, what we do, we take nature and we reshape it. But it's difficult for us. We cannot duplicate it, so we reshape it to build. So you get a whole lot of straight lines and hard lines. And we simplify things. We turn nature, we abstract nature. We abstract it. So this horizon line is here. This is the lay of the land. But in the background, there's a mound here. The land goes down and we can't see and then comes back up. But then I want you to also start behind this shape here and draw another line that, don't make it dark, make it kind of light, because we're going to cover most of this up, that goes like that. So now we have 3 stages so far going. We have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So the eye will make this bottom part, the earth, which is of the earth, which is the foreground, the area that's closest to you, and then it's going to make this part be behind this section, and then this section, which we drew lightly, is going to be behind this section here. So it's like the eye, your brain, your subconscious brain begins to figure that as being 3-dimensional, because there's 3 steps here, really 4 if you think about the sky. And then usually to make landscapes a little bit more interesting, you can put something even lower on the page, like let's put a shape kind of like a triangle, and we're going to say this is like a little, either a little pond or maybe it just rained, and there's water here, like a little pond. See how I made this little area at the bottom curvy, and this line is a little straighter, but it's not straight. And what we're going to do, I'll show you, we're going to use this area to show a reflection later. Now, when we get ready to draw in color pencils, whatever mistakes you've made on this one, you can fix. Some of you are erasing now. Make sure that we have more sky than ground. That's the main thing. More sky than ground. Because whenever we finally get to the watercolor drawing, I'm going to make myself say watercolor drawing instead of watercolor painting, because even though these are paints, we draw with the paint instead of painting with the paint when doing watercolors. You're going to come out better by thinking of it as drawing. And that's just something, that we learn in art school. But before we get to the watercolors, we're going to use the color pencils. And we're going to be very slow and methodical and careful with the color pencils, because what I'm trying to teach you now is patience. We've been doing these online classes for a year. So now what I just really want to teach you patience. Okay? So take your time. So over here on the right side of this landscape, in this first section where we have this horizon line that's sloping, we're going to put a grove of trees. So we're going to draw lightly some circles, maybe a little circle here, a big circle there, and a circle here, because those are the basic shapes. Then a half circle here, there. Very lightly, because we're going to change these circles. I just want you to see the basic shapes. Remember, everything is made up of shapes: the circle, the square, and the triangle. So we look for the shapes of objects first. And so before we change these circles, because these are going to be leaves, the tops of the trees, let's draw some branches and trunks. So I can do a trunk like this. It's curving, right? Then the branch might come out like that, or like this. We're indicating. See, it's curving to the left here. Over here, we're going to have a large, and you can change these, a large trunk here, because these trees are darker. Think of it as being, these are a grouping of trees. And then over here, we're going to have some trees, some trunks of trees that's going up like this. I'm going to draw about 3 trunks, and just think about branches and limbs, just branches mostly. Okay? So we're indicating. Since this is in the distance, we cannot see a lot of detail. Now, let's go back to this first little circle. Let's shape it. I'm turning this into about 4 circles, little circles here. Put one there. Put a circle there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Haphazardly, we're just drawing what these trees may look like in the distance. Let's do this tree here. This large grouping is behind, so let's put some lumps on this tree. They're like circles too. It's like drawing clouds. And I want to put like a small tree here, so I'm putting a little oval-like shape here. So imagine what trees might look like if you're looking at them in the distance. Put a circle there for this grouping of trees. Here, there. Now this class is for kids of all ages. If you are a preschooler, if you are under 12 years old, do the best you can. It's probably going to look great. Okay? Because the younger you are, the more expressive you are. And if parents are watching, let them do their thing and don't judge it. Because what happens is, when we get older, we start judging art, but we judge art the wrong way unless you are an artist and you've studied art and you know art. If you haven't, you can't really judge even your child's art. But if it's what children do, which I love, is they are honest and they use all of their creativity. So their work is going to usually come out looking abstract, but awesome. Their work usually looks awesome. So you can show them little things, but just let them have fun. Over here, we're going to draw, let's say, some triangles. First, I'm going to put half of a triangle here, lightly sketch. See how I'm holding my pencil? Lightly sketch a triangle. Then I'm going to overlap that triangle with a triangle that goes above this line here of this mound. Then I'm going to do another triangle here. And these are going to be trees that looks more like triangles. So I'm just drawing the basic shapes. We can't really see that much of the branches, but we can see the shapes of the leaves. So here now I'm just going to round the shapes off like clouds again. Putting little jagged lines here. I'm just thinking about like a trunk of a tree, and there may be some leaves, some branches that we can't see. We're going to shade this later on, and it's going to look more like trees. And up here on this mound, let's put a few shapes up here, which may indicate some grove of trees in the background. Way back there, you can't tell what they are. Now let's put the shape of let's put a dead tree here. So I'm going to let the trunk bend Curve to the left, then put some little branches up here. Wherever you think they belong. Make it small. Keep everything down here. Don't draw it too large. We're trying to draw these things in perspective. Now I'm going to put some little bushes on this horizon line, because these trees are on this horizon line too. I'm going to put some bushes and grass to separate from the background. I'm going to let it go all the way over here to the grove of trees. In our neck of the woods, you might see a mountain back there, but we're not going to show that. Remember, this is practice for the color pencil drawing. I'm still using the number 2 pencil. It's going to be more difficult when we use the very soft lead, but I want you to use the soft lead because I want you to develop your skills, knowing when to put pressure and when not to put pressure. We're not putting any pressure on the paper right now. As a matter of fact, for you older kids, 94 years old, in drawing, you never make indentations into your paper, because what it does is the graphite will sit there or congregate there and congeal there, and light will hit it, and it will cause a gloss, especially when your picture is under glass, and all drawings should be under glass eventually. So when drawing the clouds in the sky, it's difficult to make it look like it's three-dimensional and not look flat, like it's going straight up like this. So we want to try to get some depth in the sky, and we can use shading. So let's draw some clouds. Your clouds may not look like mine. I'm going to start here at the top. I'm going to leave some top and just lightly sketch in maybe some shapes of some clouds. I'm going to leave an opening here. And then I'm going to draw a little bit heavier some clouds, which is, they are in front of this grouping. So I'm using the weight of my pencil to sort of tell us where the clouds are. I'm going to draw some clouds that's behind this one. So you see how this line being a little bit heavier helps it to push this a little bit in front of these clouds here. And let's let the clouds go across the page. Maybe it's getting ready to rain, I don't know. And just be creative. Your clouds don't have to look like mine. I had in mind to draw a chemtrail just now. That shows you the effect that real life has on my art. I'm always thinking about what I see. A chemtrail, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, is when an airplane flies over a jet and leaves a trail of jet fuel. Behind. See, I've made some marks on my paper I didn't want to make. Keep your hand off your paper, because if you haven't, you're going to have like your fingerprints and your palm prints on your paper. Let's do a few little clouds that go across the landscape that's hanging low, some low-hanging clouds. And we're going to leave this little area here clear. Now I'm going back up into my clouds, and I'm going to shade. I think I'll start with my soft pencil now. And I'm going to use the side of my pencil to lightly shade these clouds that's behind. I'm leaving white. What my shades are doing, what I'm trying to do is show volume in the clouds. So there's a difference in value. When I mean value, the shading, the light and the darks. I'm doing these clouds behind. Now with the color pencils, we can just use color to do that. It helps to put a little shading on the bottom of the clouds a lot, and sometimes in the middle of the clouds like I just did. This cloud here is going to be dark. I'm using the side of my pencil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go darker with everything, but right now we're doing the second layer, if you will, of the drawing. First we put the sketch down, now we're shading. Make these clouds darker. I think it's getting ready to rain, just before the rain. And mainly what we're thinking about, you have to be very careful when you're drawing in the sky, because you have to decide what's going to be shaded and what's not. If I shade the sky, this area here is the sky. That's the sky. These are the clouds. Sometimes you can get that confused when drawing in black and white. Sometimes you can confuse all that. So I want to shade the sky, but then it'll begin to look like it's night. So now that I have these clouds shaded, I can always go back. Like I can do this line here. I can go back and make some of the lines wider, heavier, without digging into the paper. I'll put some more cloud shapes on here. You have to go with your instincts. But see, don't try to finish any one part and then go to the next. Draw on the whole picture. Try to draw on the entire picture at once. Go from one part of the picture to the next. I feel like I'll just draw this little area here. I'm going to shade this lightly. This is the ground, the background. This is on the ground as far as the eye can see. This area here, I'm going to darken it so you can see it. It's the first level, the first level of the ground. And this side is the second, and this is the third. So I think I'll make this background here, this little bit, a little darker. How dark, I don't know. But I want this to look like it's behind everything else. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going back with the point of my pencil and sketch in that line here to make sure that this part of the land looks like it's in front of this part. And now I can see it better by drawing that line. I can sketch that, shade that in a little bit more. I feel like doing these trees, so I'm going to redraw my tree branches using the point of my pencil. Indicate some limbs with the point of my pencil so that we can see these. See, I'm making it darker. I'm not digging into the paper. Do not dig into the paper. Just use the point of your pencil. You're using a 4B or a 5B. And so, did I move that camera? Antha, did I move this camera out of position? So I'm using the point of my pencil. I really put a point on this pencil. And these trees are double lined. I don't know if you can see this. And since we're doing tree trunks, let's go ahead and do this one. Remember, keep your hand off the paper. So when I use the point of this pencil, it makes a dark line. I want to leave that, I want you to be able to see these trunks a little bit. It don't have to be too clear. I mean, I put a shadow on that one. But I want it to look like trees back here and bushes. Okay, so now I can turn and use the side of my pencil and shade dark the parts of this grove that's in shadow. So we know that underneath the trees, let's do underneath first. We know it's in shadow, but we're going to keep these shapes that we have here, or they're not going to look like trees. I can go back. I'm not using the point of my pencil now. I'm still using the flat side of the pencil. Be careful, these shapes, these circles that you already drew, leave those, don't shade over those. Those are going to act as highlights. So from a distance, you can't see what's going on underneath the trees because it's in shadow. Now, I'm going to try to shade the leaves of the trees. There are going to be different shapes of shadows. This side here, I'm just going to make dark. So the light is coming down from this angle, casting a shadow to the left. And we're going to use that for the entire picture. It's coming from the right-hand side. The light is coming down from the right-hand side, casting shadows under the trees, highlighting. And the light is really behind the trees more than anything. And the light is hitting this parcel of land right here, this second level of land. You have to go kind of slow. Make sure that when you draw these leaves and let me demonstrate on a big sheet of paper. So we have these shapes, ovals and circles. So what I did was first I drew the limbs and branches, indicated. That means I didn't draw everything because it's too far away to see. But these little lines here, even though you can't really see them, it's going to make it make sense. So then I start shading to show that, because we can't see from so far away any details underneath those trees. Now, since the light is coming from this direction, then most of my shading for the trees are going to be on the left-hand side. So the light's coming from the right, the shadows drop on the left. Now this is what I want you to see. I'm making sure that as I'm shading, I'm varying these circles to make sure that they look like leaves. It's hard to see because the drawing is so small, but I want jagged lines, okay? And the way to do it is in your mind. Think about what you're drawing. Think tree. When drawing trees, think tree. When drawing land, think land. Have that in the forefront of your mind. I'm drawing land, what you're drawing. So you're sort of like talking to yourself. And you're asking yourself, what is it that I'm actually looking at? How do I see it? So the light is going to hit this side of the foliage of these trees. The left side is going to be dark, and the right side is going to be light. So as groupings and bunches of foliage appear, the light changes. So that's what I'm doing, even though it's very small. So I don't want these to look like perfect circles, these shapes. The circles is just the shape. I can have haphazard lines here. So this tree is in front of these groupings, so I can darken. I know I want to shade this right here behind this tree. It'll be easier to see probably when we're doing it in color. When drawing or painting in color, think in black and white. When drawing or painting in black and white, think of color. So even though this is in black and white, I want it to feel like it's in color. Now this paper have textures, and that's why you can, it's rough, so you can see a lot of white. But that helps us really. That really helps us get, it helps us sort of indicate the leaves. And kids, the main thing is do not neglect your drawing. So everything that you do informs or helps you with the next thing to do. So everything that you do is important. The sketch, the first sketch is important. I'm using this sketch to know where to shade. I drew the tree trunks, and I want to be able to still see the tree trunks and the limbs. Even if nobody knows but me what I'm looking at. A lot of times people look at your art, and because they don't look at a lot of art, they don't know what they're looking at. Okay, so, and that's perfectly fine. And one of the reasons for doing this class is art education. So if somebody asks you, what's that? Don't be offended. They just don't understand what they're looking at. They don't draw every day, so they can't understand. So we're trying to help them. And everything I'm doing is helping. Now I'm going to shade lightly this grove of trees. Now what I usually do is I'll leave that there and go back later, because I might want to make some areas darker. Now your paper won't have all these brittle, it won't look so brittle because your paper is probably not as textured as this. But now I'm going over here and to do the same thing. This first tree here is, and these trees are more of a triangle. These are groupings of circles. But we do know that when you get down to the ground is dark. I'm going to draw these bushes. I'm just going to shade these bushes in here. These little lumps and bumps. I'm just making them all dark. Now, different paper will cause a different effect. If I had done this on hot pressed paper, there would not be so much texture, and everything would be a lot smoother. Smooth is not, it depends on what you want from the picture. Sometimes you don't want it to be smooth. We're not trying to make a photograph. I keep reiterating that. My teachers in school, they have to keep telling me that when I first went to college, I just wanted to make everything look like what I saw. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a whole style. But now I'm eclectic. Sometimes I want things to look super realistic, but recently I don't. I just want my art to be expressive now, to have some type of emotion or feeling. I want to express who I am as an individual, and that's the good thing about art. It gives you that opportunity. Now, look what I'm going to do now. This area here, remember I said this is going to be a pond? Let's shade this line a little bit, make it darker. And we're using only 2 pencils because it's more difficult to do. We do the hard stuff. We do the hard things. So I have a tree trunk right here that's leaning to the left. So I'm going to pick up that line here like a mirror image. See that? This one leans to the left too. They're all leaning to the left. Maybe there was a tornado. I picked that up there. This one sort of goes off to the right a little bit. I can see it. People looking at it won't see these lines because this is in black and white, not color. So now I'm going to shade a little bit, do a little shading. Looking at this here. So I'm trying to duplicate the shading a little bit. And right here, I'm going to use the point of my pencil. Well, I need to sharpen my pencil. Another thing, with highly textured paper, let's see what weight this paper is. You use a lot of pencil lead. Oh. This is 90-pound paper, 185 GSM. It's for watercolor. So I probably should have been saving this for my watercolor. Nice paper. I'm going to use the point of the pencil and just imagine grass here. This is grass. Imagine grass. So I'm making little grass lines. Like that. I'm going back here to the top of this mound. There's some groves of trees way off in the distance. I'm going to shade those in so it just looks dark. I'm going back up here. Remember I talked about drawing the entire picture? Because what that's doing is it sort of brings the picture together. You do something over here and it causes you to do something over here on the other side, the opposite side. Everything's affects everything else. Now, when we paint, we're going to paint it like this too. So I'm just going to make some light strokes. And I'm thinking grass again. I'm going to draw more strokes here because I'm seeing less light here. And then in the foreground, I'm going to put quite a few strokes. So it represents grass, even though I'm making strokes horizontally. It's the shade, the light, how the light is hitting the grass. Now what I could do, and we may do this in the picture, I'm going to draw some flowers in the foreground, some wildflowers. We're out in the country somewhere. Just indicate some wildflowers. And this is at the bottom of the page. So the eye has something to look at from the bottom of the page. Then the eye looks at this pond. Let me make this part darker. So the eye looks at this. The eye looks at the pond. The eye looks at the ground. It looks at the grove of trees. travels. Look at this Grover trees. It notices this mound. This line here is so important. This line here is so important. I'm going to, it should be drawn fast. Because I want, if this looks like it's in front of that, and if this line here, I'm going to make it darker. See how the shapes are undulating? These shapes are lumps and bumps. They're not just straight lines. So the light is hitting this hill here, this mound, this hill, and it's lighter. The hill is lighter than the ground that's in front. But we have to show the light hitting this line, this land. And there's a highlight here. So I'm making some subtle changes, very small changes. Let's put some grass here using the points. See, when you use the point of your pencil, the lines are dark. They're darker. Put some little wildflowers. This is where you and I, this is where we're standing. We're standing, maybe, we might be standing in tall grass. Maybe we've been walking through tall grass and then we come upon this landscape. Maybe we just exited a grove of trees ourselves. Maybe we've been walking around in the forest, in the woods, and just exploring. We don't know really where we are. This is the first time we've been to this place, and we're hiking maybe. Then we come to this opening all of a sudden. I'm using the point of my pencil. I'm thinking about nothing but shading now. I'm going to probably go back to my HB pencil. I'm going to go back over and shade, make things, it's going to make things a little bit grayer. I want this line to be darker. Now, if I had used hot press paper, if I had used smoother paper, it has some advantages. It has some plus and minuses. The plus is that it's easier to make things dark. The minus is that it's harder to indicate maybe leaves. Also, whenever you're using a pencil, remember you can, if you need to go back in, and I don't need to do that, and I don't know if I can find it. But remember, we use our erasers. Remember, you can use a kneaded eraser if you wanted to. I may demonstrate that somewhere. I don't really need to right now. But remember, you can make highlights with this eraser. And it's called kneaded because you can shape it to get a point. Keep your hand off the paper. So I'm only using my 2B now. Remember, you have other pencils too. So, drawing in pencil is a very high form of art. Uh, the old masters used it, of course, to plan their paintings, and that's what we are doing today. So when I'm doing all this shading here in these trees, this grove of trees, I'm taking my time. I'm trying to figure stuff out. I'm working out problems, whatever. But in the end, we come out with a drawing. And I'm probably going to frame this drawing, actually. So we are left with a drawing that's actually sellable for the older artists, that may be sellable. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is drawing is really the most important thing that an artist needs to know how to do. Because everything has drawing in it. All your paintings have drawing in it. Even if it's unintentional, it has that. Drawing underlines all of the visual arts, all of them. So your drawing practice is very important. So it is art. Drawing is art. It's amazing that I have to say that these days. And I say that because we have our times have changed, and I'm an old fogey and all of that. And I'm an old school, old fogey. But art, drawing and painting will always be art. So it's always going to be the foundation, because it is its own art form. There may be other forms of art, newer forms of art, like film. That's a newer form of art, believe it or not. Photography is new, digital. But there's something about the hand and the eye that distinguishes a master artist. Now, I'm going to do this. See these little things here? I'm making some little marks here. You don't have to do that, but the more I work, the more I want to do, but I'm done. Now, what am I going to do? Let's put my initials here. You put your name and your age. And I want some of you guys to message me or email me, email Splash, and send me your drawings and your paintings so that I can see them. And maybe I can critique them for you. Okay, hey, it's been fun. Once again, once I get started, it's hard to stop, because I am an artist. It's not just what I do, it's who I am. So sometimes I don't even feel like doing this, but once I get started, it's like a drug or something. So I enjoyed myself again. So we did the drawing in pencil. Next time we're going to do the drawing in color pencil. We may not finish it because color pencil takes a lot longer. And then after we do this same drawing in color pencil, we're going to do it in watercolor. And by then, we may just draw with the paint. And who knows? After we do it in watercolor, maybe we'll do it in oil paint. Yeah, I think I might want to do that. So we can see the process of how you develop your vision and how you develop your art. So hope to see you on Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 6, and next Saturday from 11 to 12. And remember, as always, art is for everyone. Bye-bye.